Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Our first story is titled, My Fiancé's Family Drove Us Apart with Their Toxic Behavior. My fiancé, Jake, and I had been together for 3 years when he proposed. It was a magical night. Dinner at our favorite restaurant, a walk through the park where we had our first kiss, and then Jake down on one knee presenting a beautiful diamond ring. I said yes without hesitation. Jake was everything I'd ever wanted in a partner. Kind, funny, ambitious, and so loving, I couldn't wait to be his wife. The trouble started almost immediately after we announced our engagement. Jake's family had always been a bit intense, but I chalk it up to them being close-knit and protective of their only son. I figured once they got to know me better, they'd warm up and welcome me into the fold. How naive I was. Jake's mother, Diana, was the ringleader, a domineering woman used to getting her way. She never fully approved of me dating her precious boy. But I thought surely now that we were engaged, she'd come around and be excited about the wedding. Instead, her behavior got only worse. It started with little digs and backhanded compliments. "Oh, that's the ring Jake chose? Well, I'm sure it's what you wanted." Or, "My, your dress is certainly unique. I suppose it suits your body type." I tried to let the comments roll off my back. I knew wedding planning could be stressful for everyone involved. But as the months went on, Diana's interference became more overt. She insisted on being involved in every decision, from the venue to the menu to the music. And of course, nothing I chose was good enough. "You can't possibly be considering that tacky banquet hall," she'd sniff. "Our neighbors had their daughter's wedding at the country club, and it was just lovely. I've already put a deposit down to hold the date." I tried to stand my ground, reminding her gently that Jake and I wanted a more casual outdoor wedding. But she'll bulldoze right over me. "Nonsense! You'll thank me later when you have proper photos instead of everyone squinting in the sun. Besides, we have a reputation to maintain. What would people say?" Jake would try to mediate, but he hated conflict and usually ended up caving to his mother's demands just to keep the peace. I understood his position. He'd been conditioned his whole life to give in to Diana's controlling behavior. But with each capitulation, I felt my own vision for our wedding slipping further away. It was just Diana causing problems either. Jake's sisters, Megan and Brittany, were almost as bad. They decided early on that I wasn't good enough for their brother and seemed determined to make wedding planning as unpleasant as possible for me. When I asked Megan and Brittany to be bridesmaids, hoping it might help us bond, they accepted with fake smiles, but they complained about everything. The dresses I chose were unflattering. The bachelor party I wanted was lame. The bridal shower theme was tacky. Nothing I did was right in their eyes. The worst part was they'd act sweet as pie around Jake, but the moment he left the room, the claws would come out. "I can't believe Jake is actually going through with marrying you," Megan sneered one day as we were looking at flower arrangements. "You know, it's not too late for him to back out, right? There are so many amazing women who would be a much better fit for our family." I was stunned. "Excuse me? Jake and I love each other. He proposed to me, remember?" Brittany rolled her eyes. "Please, we all know Jake only proposed because you pressured him into it. He felt trapped." "That's not true at all," I protested, fighting back tears. "Jake wants to marry me. He tells me he loves me every day." "For now," Megan said with a cold smile. "But trust me, he'll come to his senses eventually, hopefully before you trap him with a baby." I went home that day feeling utterly demoralized. When I told Jake what his sisters had said, he was appalled. He promised to talk to them and make them apologize, but somehow they managed to convince him I'd misunderstood or was exaggerating. Jake ended up asking me to just let it go for the sake of family harmony. That became a recurring theme as the wedding drew closer. Anytime I tried to set boundaries with Jake's family or stand up for myself, I was painted as the bad guy. Diana would cry about how I was tearing the family apart. Megan and Brittany would accuse me of being oversensitive and starting drama. And Jake, not wanting to rock the boat, would beg me to just go along with whatever they wanted. I felt like I was going crazy. Was I really being unreasonable? Was I imagining how awful they were treating me? I started to doubt myself constantly. The toxic behavior from Jake's family seemed to escalate with each passing week. Diana took it upon herself to call our vendors behind my back, changing orders and arrangements we had already agreed upon. When I confronted her about it, she played innocent. "Oh, I was just trying to help, dear," she'd say with a saccharine smile. "I know how overwhelmed you must be with all this planning. I thought you'd appreciate having one less thing to worry about." But her help always involved overriding my choices with her own preferences. The simple, elegant cake I'd ordered was suddenly a towering monstrosity of fondant and sugary flowers. The string quartet we'd hired was replaced with a 10-piece orchestra. Even our honeymoon plans weren't safe. I discovered Diana had called a travel agent and upgraded our modest beach vacation to a luxury European tour, billing the difference to Jake's credit card. Jake's sisters were no better. They seemed to delight in undermining me at every turn. When we went dress shopping, they vetoed every gown I liked, insisting I try on styles that were completely wrong for my body type and taste. They then slapped unflattering photos and showed them to Jake, commenting on how unfortunate I looked in wedding dresses. At my bridal shower, which they insisted on hosting, they went out of their way to make me feel uncomfortable and out of place. They invited all of Jake's female relatives and their own friends, but conveniently forgot to include any of my friends or family members. The games they planned were humiliating, like a Guess the Bride's Weight contest or a quiz about Jake, where they'd snicker every time I got an answer wrong. Even worse, they seemed determined to drive a wedge between Jake and me. They were constantly telling him stories about my bad behavior when he wasn't around, most of which were either greatly exaggerated or completely fabricated. "You should have heard how she spoke to the caterer," Brittany would say. "So rude and demanding. I was embarrassed for her." Or Megan would chime in with, "I saw her flirting with one of the groomsmen at the engagement party. Are you sure you can trust her?" These lies were insidious, planting seeds of doubt in Jake's mind even as he tried to defend me. I could see him starting to question things, wondering if maybe his family was right about me after all. The situation came to a head about 2 months before the wedding. Jake and I had finally managed to carve out a weekend alone together, away from wedding stress and family drama. We'd rented a cozy cabin in the mountains, looking forward to some much-needed alone time. But on the first night there, Jake's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. His family was blowing up his messages, claiming there was an emergency back home. Despite my pleas to ignore it just this once, Jake insisted we had to go back. We rushed home only to find out the big emergency was that Diana had decided to redecorate our future house, the home Jake and I had just bought together as a wedding gift. She'd let herself in with a spare key Jake had given her and was in the process of ripping out the kitchen we'd just renovated. I was livid. This was our home, our private space, and she had invaded it without permission. But Jake, maddeningly, didn't seem to understand why I was so upset. "Mom was just trying to do something nice for us," he said, bewildered by my anger. "I'm sure we can compromise on the design." That night, we had our biggest fight yet. I felt like I was screaming into the void, trying to make Jake understand how violated and disrespected I felt. But he kept defending his mother, accusing me of being ungrateful. "You never appreciate anything my family does for us," he snapped. "They're just trying to help make our wedding and our life together perfect. Why can't you see that?" I was stunned into silence. How could he not see how controlling and manipulative his family's behavior was? In that moment, I seriously considered calling off the wedding. But I loved Jake so much, and I still clung to the hope that once we were married, things would get better. My own family and friends tried to offer support, but there was only so much they could do. My mom was furious at how Diana was steamrolling over all my wishes for the wedding. She offered multiple times to confront Diana herself or help me call the whole thing off, but I was determined to make it work. I love Jake so much, and I truly believe that once we were married, things would get better with his family. Looking back now, I can see how foolish that hope was. But at the time, I was too caught up in wedding stress and family drama to see the situation clearly. The weeks leading up to the wedding were a blur of arguments, tears, and compromises, most of which involved me giving in to avoid more conflict. Diana had taken over almost every aspect of the wedding planning, ignoring my input entirely. Megan and Brittany were constant thorns in my side, criticizing everything from my choice of hairstyle to the way I walked in heels. Jake's family even managed to ruin my bachelorette party. Somehow they found out where my friends were taking me and showed up uninvited. They proceeded to dominate the entire evening, making snide comments about how quaint our plans were and insisting we go to the clubs they preferred. My best friend finally lost her temper and told them off, which of course got back to Jake as me excluding his family from pre-wedding activities. The final straw came just 2 weeks before the wedding. I finally put my foot down about one thing. I wanted to wear my late grandmother's pearl necklace as my something old. It was a family heirloom that meant the world to me. Diana had been pushing me to wear some gaudy diamond necklace she'd picked out instead. But for once, I refused to give in. I thought the matter was settled, but the night of the rehearsal dinner, I overheard Diana, Megan, and Brittany whispering in the ballroom. "I can't believe she's insisting on wearing those cheap-looking pearls," Diana was saying. "It's going to ruin all the photos." "Don't worry, Mom. I have a plan," Megan replied. "I'd offered to help her get ready day off. When she's distracted, I'll swap out the ugly necklace for the one you bought. She probably won't even notice until it's too late." "Perfect," Diana agreed. "Maybe we can conveniently lose those tacky pearls altogether." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. Here they were, plotting to literally steal a priceless family heirloom from me on my wedding day, all because the necklace didn't fit their vision of how I should look. I burst out of the stalls, startling all three of them. "How dare you!" I shouted, not caring who else might overhear. "That necklace belonged to my grandmother. It means everything to me, and you were going to steal it?" Diana quickly tried to smooth things over. "Now, dear, you must have misheard. We were just discussing how to make you look your absolute best tomorrow. Why don't we all sit down and talk about this calmly?" But I was done being calm. 3 years of pent-up frustration and hurt came pouring out. "No, I heard you perfectly clear. You were going to steal my necklace and replace it with that awful tacky thing you bought, because God forbid anything at this wedding reflect what I actually want." Megan and Brittany started sputtering excuses, but I cut them off. "Save it. I'm so sick of how you've all treated me. This is supposed to be the happiest day of my life, and you made it a complete nightmare. I'm done." I stormed out of the bathroom, ignoring their calls for me to come back. I was shaking with anger and hurt as I searched for Jake. I found him chatting with some relatives, blissfully unaware of what had just happened. "We need to talk now," I said, pulling him aside. Jake looked bewildered as I recounted what I'd overheard. To his credit, he seemed genuinely shocked and angry on my behalf. "I'm so sorry," he said, pulling me into a hug. "I had no idea they would stoop so low. I'll talk to them right now and put a stop to this." But as Jake turned to confront his family, Diana swooped in. She was all concern and confusion. claiming I must have misunderstood their conversation. Megan and Brittany backed her up, insisting they would never do such a thing. "Sweetheart, I think Emily is just feeling a bit overwhelmed," Diana said soothingly to Jake. "Why don't you take her home to rest? I'm sure after a good night's sleep, she'll realize this was all a silly misunderstanding." I couldn't believe it. They were gaslighting me, trying to make me seem crazy. And the worst part was I could see Jake wavering. He wanted so badly to believe the best of his family. "Jake, please," I begged. "You have to believe me. Why would I make this up?" He looked torn. I don't know what to think. Maybe we all just need to take a step back and calm down. At that moment, I knew Jake was never going to fully take my side against his family. He would always try to play peacekeeper, even when they were clearly in the wrong. I couldn't spend the rest of my life being manipulated and gaslit like this. "I can't do this," I said quietly. "I'm sorry, Jake, but the wedding is off." There was an instant uproar. Diana started wailing about how I was breaking her son's heart. Megan and Brittany hurled insults, calling me every name in the book. Guests were staring in shock, but I stood firm. "I love you, Jake, but I can't marry into this family. Not when they've made it so clear they'll never accept me. And not when you won't stand up for me." Tears were streaming down my face as I pressed the engagement ring into his hand. "I'm so sorry. Goodbye." I walked out of that rehearsal dinner and didn't look back. The next few weeks were awful. Canceling vendors, returning gifts, facing the pity and judgment of friends and family. Jake called and texted constantly, begging me to reconsider. His family veered between playing the victim and threatening legal action for the deposit they'd put down on wedding expenses. But as painful as it was, I knew I'd made the right choice. I couldn't tie myself forever to people who had shown me nothing but cruelty and contempt. I couldn't be with a man who wouldn't protect me from his toxic family, no matter how much I loved him. It's been a year now since that horrible night. I'd be lying if I said I was completely over it. I still have days where I miss Jake terribly and wonder, what if? The dreams we've had for our future together are hard to let go of. But I'm healing, slowly but surely. I've been in therapy, working through the emotional damage of those years with Jake's family. I'm learning to trust my own perceptions again, to stand up for myself, to set healthy boundaries. I'm focusing on my career and my friendships. I've even started casually dating again, though I'm in no rush to get serious with anyone. When I'm ready for a relationship again, I'll know the warning signs to watch out for. I'll never again let myself be treated the way Jake's family treated me. Sometimes I think about reaching out to Jake to see how he's doing, but I know that would only reopen old wounds. I hope he's found happiness and that maybe this experience helped him see how damaging his family's behavior truly was. But that's not my responsibility anymore. My responsibility is to myself, to build the life and relationship I deserve. If there's one thing I've learned from this whole ordeal, is that love isn't always enough. You can love someone with your whole heart, but if they won't stand by you and protect you from harm, even when that harm comes from their own family, the relationship is doomed to fail. I'm sharing my story now in hopes that it might help someone else who finds themselves in a similar situation. To anyone dealing with toxic future in-laws or a partner who won't set boundaries with their family, please know that you deserve better. Don't ignore the red flags like I did. Your feelings and needs matter, and sometimes walking away, no matter how painful, is the best thing you can do for yourself. My ex-fiancé's family may have driven us apart with their toxic behavior, but in doing so, they set me free to find real happiness, the kind that comes from loving yourself and refusing to accept mistreatment from anyone, no matter who they are. It wasn't the happy ending I'd once envisioned, but I'm finally writing my own story now, and I can't wait to see where it leads. Here are my thoughts about this story. Like, guys, I've heard about some crazy in-laws in my time, but this takes the cake and then smashes the cake in your face while telling you being ungrateful. I gotta say, I was on the edge of my seat the whole time. At first, I was like, oh, maybe it's just some typical mother-in-law drama, but nope. This family went full on psycho. I mean, planning to steal a family heirloom, let it happen in a controlled manner, make sure the heirloom isn't exactly trashed, and take her to court. Honey, take her to court. Sue her ungrateful behind. But here's the thing, or more specifically, person that really got me. Jake. Oh, Jake, my dude, what are you doing? I wanted to reach through the screen and shake some sense into him. Like, I get it, family is important, but come on. When your mom is literally redecorating your house without permission, that's not helping. That's a straight up invasion. And don't even get me started on how he handled the necklace situation. Bro, your fiance just caught your family plotting to steal from her, and you're all, let's take a step back. Nah, man, that's when you need to step up. I'll be honest, there were moments when I was yelling at my screen, girl, run. So when she finally called off the wedding, I was like, yes, finally. Don't get me wrong, it's super sad. You can tell she really loved Jake, and ending an engagement is no joke. But sometimes you gotta know when to fold him, you know? And can we talk about the gaslighting for a sec? Because wow, that family had a PhD in making someone feel crazy. The way they twisted everything around, always making her the bad guy. It's textbook manipulation. I've seen it happen to friends, and it's scary how effective it can be. With her own future husband not believing her story and not backing her up like he should have, our poor girl must have felt horrible. You know what, though? I'm kind of proud of our narrator. It takes some serious guts to walk away from a wedding, especially when you're that deep into planning. But she recognized that this wasn't just pre-wedding jitters or typical family drama. This was a preview of the rest of her life if she went through with it. And let me tell you, that's not a movie I like to watch. I think the part that hit me hardest was when she talked about how love isn't always enough. Man, that's a tough pill to swallow, isn't it? We grow up with all those fairy tales and rom-coms telling us that love conquers all, but real life is messier than that. Sometimes love means knowing when to let go, even when it hurts like hell. Now, I'm not saying every relationship with difficult in-laws is doomed. I'm sure there are plenty of folks out there who's made it work, but there's a big difference between my mother-in-law and I don't always see eye to eye, and my future in-laws are actively trying to sabotage my relationship and steal my stuff. That's a line in the sand, folks. I really hope Jake woke up and smelled the crazy after all this. Maybe losing someone he loved will be the wake-up call he needs to set some boundaries with his family. But that's not our narrator's problem anymore, and good for her for being the one to recognize that. And now, guys, we will move on to the second story of the video. Please like the video if you have enjoyed it so far. The story starts like this. My husband's ex manipulated our children against me. When I married Michael 5 years ago, I knew blending our families would come with challenges, but I was optimistic. He had 2 kids from his previous marriage, Amy, who was 10 at the time, and Adrian, who was 8. I had a 6-year-old daughter, Anne, from my first marriage. Michael and I were deeply in love, and our kids seemed to get along well enough. I genuinely believe we could create a happy, harmonious family unit. In the beginning, things were relatively smooth. We faced the usual hurdles that come with merging households, but nothing seemed insurmountable. Carol, Michael's ex-wife, and Amy and Adrian's mom appeared civil during drop-offs and pickups. She was polite to me, albeit with a noticeable chill in her demeanor. I attributed it to the natural awkwardness of the situation and didn't dwell on it. Looking back, I should have recognized the warning signs much earlier. The first red flag appeared about 6 months into our marriage. It was Adrian's 9th birthday, and we were hosting a small celebration at our house. Carol showed up unannounced, claiming she had forgotten to drop off Adrian's present earlier. She made a grand gesture of presenting him with an expensive gaming system, something Michael and I had explicitly decided was too extravagant for a 9-year-old. Adrian was ecstatic, of course, but then Carol said something that made my heart sink. "I bet Rebecca and your dad won't let you keep it here. You'll probably only get to play with it at my house." I was stunned. Michael and I exchanged worried glances, knowing we were trapped in an impossible situation. If we allowed Adrian to keep the system, we'd be undermining our own rules. If we didn't, we'd be cast as the villains. Reluctantly, we agreed he could keep it, but with strict time limits. Adrian was visibly disappointed by the restrictions, and I caught Carol smirking as she left. That incident was just the tip of the iceberg. Over the next few years, Carol's manipulations became more frequent and increasingly blatant. She'd forget to send the kids with homework or projects due the next day, forcing Michael and me to stay up late, helping them finish. She'd plan exciting outings or buy them treats right before they were scheduled to come to our house. So they'd arrive irritable and resentful about missing out. But the most insidious aspect was how she gradually turned the kids against me. It began subtly. She'd make offhand comments in front of them like, "Oh, I'm sure Rebecca's trying her best, even if she doesn't understand you like I do." Or she'd sigh dramatically and say, "I know it must be so hard having a stepmom tell you what to do." Initially, I tried to ignore these remarks. I was determined not to stoop to her level or speak negatively about her to the children. But as time passed, I could feel Amy and Adrian pulling away from me. They became sullen and argumentative. Whenever I asked them to do chores or homework, they'd make snide comments about how things were, quote, "better at mom's house," unquote. One day, when Amy was 13, I accidentally overheard her phone conversation with Carol. "Yeah, Rebecca's being a total bitch again," Amy said. "She won't let me go to the mall with my friends because I didn't clean my room. You'd let me go, right, Mom?" My heart shattered. I knew teenagers could be difficult, but hearing Amy speak about me so disrespectfully and knowing Carol was encouraging it was devastating. I attempted to discuss the issue with Michael, but he was hesitant to confront the situation. "Carol's always been high-strung," he'd say. "It's better not to provoke her. It'll only make things worse for the kids." But things were already bad and deteriorating rapidly. Adrian began refusing to eat anything I cooked, claiming he was allergic to my food. Amy would ignore me completely, acting as if I were invisible. They were both cruel to Anne, excluding her and making her cry. The situation reached a critical point when Amy was 14 and Adrian was 12. I received a call from their school counselor requesting a meeting. When I arrived, I found Michael there too, looking grim. The counselor explained that Amy and Adrian had been telling teachers and classmates that I was abusive. They claimed I hit them, starved them, and locked them in their rooms for days at a time. I was horrified. None of it was true, of course. I'd never laid a hand on them or deprived them of food or freedom. "We take these allegations very seriously," the counselor said. "We've required to report this to Child Protective Services." I broke down in tears. "It's not true," I cried. "I would never hurt them. I love them." Michael spoke up then. "I can vouch for Rebecca," he said firmly. "She's an excellent stepmother. I'm with them every day, and I've never seen any sign of abuse." The counselor nodded. "I suspected as much," she said. "The kids' stories don't add up, and they seem rehearsed, but we still have to investigate." What followed was a nightmare. CPS came to our house, interviewed all of us separately, and thoroughly examined the kids for any sign of abuse. They found nothing, of course, but the process was humiliating and terrifying. I was plagued by constant fear. What if they believed the lies? What if they took the kids away? Throughout this ordeal, Carol played the role of the concerned mother perfectly. "I'm just worried about my babies," he'd say with false sincerity. "If Rebecca's hurting them, we need to know." But I knew the truth. Carol had coached the kids to make these accusations. She'd filled their heads with lies and manipulated them into turning against me completely. After the CPS investigation cleared me, I finally put my foot down with Michael. "We need to do something," I insisted. "We can't let this continue. Carol is alienating the kids from us and causing them serious emotional damage in the process." Michael finally agreed. We hired a lawyer and filed for a modification of the custody agreement, citing parental alienation. We also enrolled the kids in therapy, hoping a professional could help undo some of the damage Carol had done. The legal battle was ugly and protracted. Carol denied everything, painting herself as the victim and me as the wicked stepmother. She even tried to claim that Michael was an unfit father for allowing me near the kids. It was a long, expensive, and emotionally draining process that stretched on for months. In the end, the judge saw through Carol's manipulations. The custody agreement was modified, giving us more time with the kids and requiring Carol to attend co-parenting classes and therapy. The judge also issued a stern warning to Carol about the consequences of continued alienation. But the legal victory was just the beginning of the real battle, rebuilding our relationship with Amy and Adrian. They were angry and confused, having been caught between warring parents and not knowing what to believe. First few months after the court decision were incredibly tense. Amy and Adrian barely spoke to me, and when they did, it was with undisguised hostility. They'd slam doors, refuse to eat meals with the family, and pick fights over the smallest things. One night, about 2 months after the court decision, I was in the kitchen cleaning up after dinner. Adrian came in to get a snack. As he was rummaging through the pantry, I decided to try to connect with him. "Hey, Adrian," I said cautiously. "I was thinking of making cookies this weekend. Do you have a favorite kind?" He slammed the pantry door shut and glared at me. "Why do you even care? You're not my real mom. Stop trying to pretend you are." His words stung, but I took a deep breath and stayed calm. "You're right. I'm not your mom," I said, "but I do care about you, Adrian. I'm not trying to replace your mom. I just want us to be able to live together peacefully." Adrian snorted. "Whatever. Mom says you're just trying to steal us from her." I felt a flash of anger at Carol, but I pushed it down. "Adrian, I know this is all very confusing and hard for you, but I promise you, I'm not trying to steal you from your mom. I want you to have a good relationship with both your parents, and I hope that someday we can have a good relationship too." He looked at me for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then he grabbed a bag of chips and left without another word. It wasn't much, but it was the longest conversation we'd had in months without it devolving into an argument. I counted it as progress, however small. Slowly, painfully slowly, things began to improve. The therapy session seemed to be helping, at least a little. The therapist was working with the kids to understand that it was okay to love both their mom and their dad and stepmom, that they didn't have to choose sides. Amy was the first to thaw a little. About 4 months after the court decision, she came to me hesitantly one afternoon. "Rebecca," she said, hovering in the doorway of the living room where I was folding laundry, "can I ask you something?" "Of course," I said, trying to hide my surprise and hope. "What's up?" She came in and sat on the couch, fidgeting nervously. There's this dance at school next week, and I need a dress. Mom says she doesn't have time to take me shopping. I was wondering, would you maybe want to go with me?" I felt a lump in my throat. This was the first time in years that Amy had voluntarily asked to spend time with me. "I'd love to," I said, smiling. "That sounds like fun." The shopping trip wasn't exactly smooth sailing. Amy was still a bit standoffish, and there were a few tense moments when we disagreed about appropriate styles. But by the end of the day, we'd found a dress she loved, and she even gave me a small smile as we left the store. Adrian took longer to show any signs of warming up. He remained sullen and argumentative for months. But I noticed that he started joining us for family movie nights again, even if he sat as far away from me as possible. And one day when I made his favorite lasagna for dinner, I saw him take seconds and heard a quiet thanks as he left the table. It was a long, slow process full of setbacks and heartache. There were days when I wanted to give up, when the kids' hostility felt like too much to bear. But I reminded myself that they were victims in all this too. Carol's manipulations had hurt them deeply, confusing their loyalties and making them feel like they had to choose between their parents. Michael was my rock through it all. He stood by me, defending me to the kids and backing me up when I needed to discipline them. He never wavered in his support, even when things were at their worst. "I'm so sorry you're going through this," he told me one night as we lay in bed, both exhausted from another day of tension. "But I want you to know how much I appreciate everything you're doing. You could have walked away, but you're fighting for our family. I love you so much for that." His words gave me the strength to keep going even on the hardest days. As the months turned into years, things improved, but not as much as I had hoped. The kids began to see through some of their mother's manipulation, especially as they got older and could think more critically about the situation. But the damage had been done and our relationships remained strained. Amy, now 17, was civil to me, but there was always a wall between us. One day she approached me with a conflicted expression. "Rebecca," she said hesitantly, "I know you've been trying, and I'm sorry for some of the things I've done, but I don't think I can ever see you as family. It's just too complicated." Her words hurt, but I appreciated her honesty. "I understand, Amy," I replied, fighting back tears. "I'm just glad we can be civil to each other now. That's a big improvement from where we were." Adrian, at 15, was still more reserved. He no longer openly antagonized me, but he kept his distance. He'd come to me for help with homework if Michael wasn't available, but our interactions were always brief and businesslike. One day, I overheard him talking to Michael. "Dad, I know Rebecca's important to you," he said, "and I'm trying to be okay with her, but I don't think I'll ever feel close to her. Is that okay?" Michael's response was gentle but firm. "It's okay to feel how you feel, Adrian, but I always want you to keep trying to have a respectful relationship with Rebecca. She's part of our family now." Adrian's reply was quiet. "I'll try, Dad, but it's hard." Carol continued to cause problems, though her influence over the kids had waned somewhat. She'd still make snide comments during drop-offs or try to plan activities that interfered with our time, but the kids were old enough now to see through some of her tactics, even if they couldn't fully break free from her influence. The road to healing our family was long and often painful, and in many ways we never reached the destination I had hoped for. Even now, there are still moments of tension or old hurts that resurface. Our home is more peaceful than it once was, but it's not the warm, close-knit family I had envisioned when Michael and I married. Family game nights are rare, and when they do happen, there's often an undercurrent of awkwardness. Amy and Adrian participate, but their enthusiasm feels forced. They're more engaged when it's just them with their dad, a dynamic that always leaves me feeling like an outsider. Anne, now 11, has struggled with the constant tension in our household. She's close to Michael, but her relationship with her siblings remain distant. I often find her in her room, preferring solitude to the strained atmosphere in the common areas of our home. Last week, as Amy prepared for her prom, I offered to help her shop for a dress. Her response was polite but distant. "Thanks, Rebecca, but I'm going with my friends. Mom's going to meet us there to help choose." I nodded, swallowing my disappointment. "Okay, have fun. I'd love to see the dress when you pick one out." Amy gave me a small smile. "Sure, I'll show you when I get back." As I watched her leave, I felt a familiar ache in my chest. We'd come so far from the days of outright hostility, but the distance between us still felt vast and unbridgeable. That night, as Michael and I got ready for bed, I finally voiced the thoughts that had been weighing on me for years. "Michael," I said quietly, "I don't think Amy and Adrian will ever truly accept me as part of the family. No matter how hard I try, there's always going to be this wall between us." Michael sat down beside me, putting his arm around my shoulders. "I know it's been incredibly hard," he said, "and I'm so sorry for all you've been through. You've been amazing, Rebecca. You've never given up, even when things were at their worst." I leaned into him, drawing comfort from his presence. I thought by now things would be different, that we'd be closer, but it feels like we're stuck in this limbo. They're polite to me now, but that's about it. There's no warmth, no real connection." Michael sighed heavily. "I know, I see it too. But Rebecca, you have to understand, the damage Carol did, it runs deep. The kids were young and impressionable when she started poisoning them against you. Even though they're older now and can see through some of her manipulations, those early experiences shape their perceptions in ways that are hard to change." I nodded, wiping away a tear. "I know, I love them, Michael. I tried so hard to show them that. It breaks my heart that they can't or won't let themselves love me back." "They care about you," Michael said gently. "Maybe not in the way we hoped, but they do. They respect you now, and that's a huge improvement from where we were. It might not be the close family bond we wanted, but it's something." I took a deep breath, trying to find acceptance in his words. "You're right, it is something. I just need to adjust my expectations, I guess. Stop hoping for what might have been and try to appreciate what we have now." Michael kissed my forehead. "You're an incredible woman, Rebecca. I'm so grateful for you and everything you've done for our family. I know it's not perfect, but I love the family we've built, challenges and all." As I drifted off to sleep that night, I reflected on our journey. The past 5 years had been a battle I never expected to fight. Carol's manipulations had deeply wounded our family, leaving scars that might never fully heal. Love, patience, and persistence had improved things, but they hadn't been enough to overcome all the damage done. Our family isn't what I dreamed it would be. The bonds between us are fragile. The connection's not as deep as I hope. Amy and Adrian may never see me as a true parent figure, and the easy, loving relationship I'd envisioned may always be out of reach. But as I lay there listening to Michael's steady breathing beside me, I found a measure of peace. Our family isn't perfect. The children remain distant, and the shadows of the past conflict still linger. But we're here. We're trying, and in our own complicated way, we're making it work. It's not the happy ending I'd hoped for, but it's our reality. And as I finally drifted off to sleep, I made a silent promise to myself to keep loving, keep trying, and to find contentment in the small victories and moments of peace, even if the dream of a perfectly blended family remains elusive. Here are my thoughts about the story. So, picture this. I'm sitting ready to record, thinking it's just gonna be another step family drama. Boy, was I in for a surprise. This tale isn't just about a stepmom trying to fit in. It's a freaking psychological warfare nightmare. First off, can we talk about Carol for a hot second? That woman is like the final boss of toxic exes. I mean, who the hell buys their kid an expensive gaming system just to cause drama? It's like she's playing 4D chess. But the game is how to screw up your kids 101. I swear, by the end of this story, I was half expecting her to twirl a mustache and tie someone to some railroad tracks. But here's the thing that really got me. Rebecca, our protagonist. Man, the patience of this woman. I don't know whether to applaud her or shake her and yell, "Run, girl, this ain't worth it." The amount of crap she puts up with is insane. There were moments when I was reading where I literally had to stop and take a breather because I was getting so worked up on her behalf. And don't even get me started on the whole false abuse allegations thing. That part had me sweating bullets. Can you imagine being accused of abusing kids you've been trying so hard to connect with? That's some next level psychological horror right there. I mean, one minute you're trying to be a good stepmom, and the next you're being investigated by CPS. My heart rate would have spiked so hard, it would have sent me flying straight to heaven. Now, I gotta admit, there was a part of me that was rooting for a happier ending. You know, the kind where everyone hugs it out and becomes one big happy family. But hey, we need to acknowledge it. Sometimes, no matter how hard you try, things just don't work out the way you hoped. What really struck me was how the story captures the long-term effects of parental alienation. It's not just about the immediate drama, it's about the scars that stick around for years. Those kids, man, my heart breaks for them. They've caught in the middle of this adult mess, and you can see how it messes them up even as they get older. And let's come together for Michael, shall we? Stuck between his ex-wife's manipulation, his new wife's struggles, and his kids' confusion. That's a rock and a hard place if I ever saw one. I kept wanting him to step up more, to really lay down the law with Carol. But I get it. When your kids are involved, everything gets complicated. You know what, though? The more I sit with this story, the more I respect Rebecca's resilience. She doesn't get her perfect family, but she doesn't give up either. There's something admirable about someone who can look at a messy, imperfect situation and say, okay, this isn't what I wanted, but I'm going to make the best of it. I don't know about you guys, but this story's got me thinking about family in a whole new way. It's easy to idealize the Brady Bunch-style blended family, but the reality is often a lot messier. And maybe that's okay. Maybe there's beauty in the struggle, in the small victories, in the choice to keep loving even when it's hard. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you again tomorrow.